There is a truth many people struggle to accept. Discipline is not built where people are watching. It is built where no one is looking. The world celebrates results, but it does not see the process. It applauds success, but it ignores the sacrifice. Discipline is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not seek validation. It develops in silence, quiet, consistent, and unseen. You don't become disciplined by talking about your goals. You become disciplined by committing to them daily, especially on the days you don't feel like it, because discipline is not emotion-driven, it is decision-driven. Many people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack structure. They confuse motion with progress. They talk more than they act. They seek attention instead of alignment. But discipline demands separation. You cannot grow if you are constantly distracted. You cannot focus if your environment is filled with noise. And you cannot maximize time if you treat it casually. Time is not just something you spend. It is something you either multiply or waste. Every hour you invest with intention builds your future. Every hour you waste without direction lays it. Discipline teaches you to value time differently. It trains you to say no without guilt. It forces you to choose what matters over what is easy. And here is the reality. What you repeatedly do in private will eventually show in public. Your habits are always speaking even when you are silent. If you wake up with purpose, work with focus, and execute with consistency, you will not need to convince anyone of your growth. Your results will do it for you. Stop announcing your plans. Stop explaining your vision to people who are not part of it. Stop seeking validation for what requires execution. Instead, build quietly. Let your discipline grow where no one can interrupt it. Let your focus sharpen where no one can dilute it. Let your consistency develop where no one can distract it. Because when discipline matures in silence, it produces results that speak louder than any words ever could. Discipline is built in private, revealed in public. It begins in the quiet moments when there is no audience to impress and no applause to chase. It is formed in the early mornings when you choose to rise while others remain asleep, in the late nights when you continue working after your energy fades, and in the countless small decisions that no one else will ever see. These moments may seem insignificant on their own, but together they shape the foundation of who you become. In private, there is no pressure to perform, only a choice to commit. This is where discipline proves its authenticity. When no one is watching, excuses become easier, distractions become louder, and comfort becomes more attractive. Yet it is precisely in these moments that discipline is either strengthened or weakened. Every time you choose focus over distraction, effort over laziness, and consistency over convenience, you are reinforcing a standard within yourself. You are building a character that does not depend on external validation. Public success is simply the visible expression of invisible habits. People often admire the outcome without understanding the process behind it. They see the confidence, the results, the achievements, and assume it happened suddenly. But what they fail to realize is that every visible result is backed by hours of unseen effort. The discipline you practice in private becomes the performance you display in public. There is no shortcut around this principle. What you repeatedly do behind closed doors eventually shows itself when the doors are open. Discipline in private also protects your growth. When you are constantly seeking attention or approval, you expose your process to unnecessary opinions. Not everyone understands your vision, and not everyone is meant to. By keeping your work quiet, you give yourself the freedom to improve without pressure, to fail without judgment, and to grow without interference. Silence becomes a shield that allows your discipline to mature without distraction. There is also a deeper level of integrity involved. True discipline means you do the right thing even when there is no reward attached to it. It means you honor your commitments to yourself, not just to others. Anyone can perform well when they are being observed, but only a disciplined individual maintains that same standard when they are alone. This consistency builds trust within yourself. It creates confidence that is not dependent on recognition, but rooted in self-respect. Over time, what you practice in private becomes automatic. Your habits shape your mindset, and your mindset influences your actions. When discipline is deeply ingrained, you no longer rely on motivation to act. You move with intention, guided by principles rather than feelings. This is when discipline transitions from something you force into something you embody. Eventually, the results become visible. Your work ethic, your focus, your consistency all begin to show in your performance. Others may call it talent or luck, but you understand the truth. You know the hours, the effort, and the sacrifices that were required. The public only sees the outcome, but you have lived the process. Discipline built in private does not need to announce itself. It speaks through results, through consistency, and through the undeniable evidence of growth. What is cultivated in silence gains power over time, and when it is finally revealed, it carries a strength that cannot be easily shaken. What you do daily shapes who you become permanently. Not occasionally, not when you feel motivated, not when it is convenient, but daily. Your life is not built on big moments. It is built on repeated patterns. Every action you take, no matter how small, is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in a short burst of effort and underestimate what consistent action can do over time. They wait for the perfect moment, the right mood, or a surge of motivation. But transformation does not respond to occasional effort. It responds to repetition. What you practice repeatedly becomes your identity. If you choose discipline daily, you don't just complete tasks. You become disciplined. If you choose focus daily, you don't just get work done. You become focused. And if you choose distractions daily, you don't just lose time. You become distracted by default. Your habits are not separate from you. They are you in motion. There is a silent power in routine. It may feel ordinary, even boring at times, but that is where real change happens. Greatness is not built in intensity. It is built in consistency. The small things you do every day, waking up on time, managing your time wisely, honoring your commitments, staying focused, these are the bricks that construct your future. Every day is an opportunity to reinforce or weaken your standard. When you follow through on what you said you would do, you build trust within yourself. When you break your own promises, you slowly erode that trust. Over time, this internal relationship determines your confidence, your discipline, and your results. What makes this principle powerful is that it works whether you are aware of it or not. Your daily actions are always shaping you. The question is not if you are changing, but in what direction. Are your habits moving you closer to your goals or quietly pulling you away from them? The danger lies in ignoring the small things. Skipping one day feels harmless. Wasting a few hours seems insignificant. But repeated over weeks, months, and years, these small decisions compound into outcomes you cannot ignore. In the same way, small positive actions, done consistently, create results that seem extraordinary to others. You don't become successful overnight. You become successful daily, and then one day it becomes visible. You don't suddenly become disciplined. You train yourself to be disciplined through repeated choices. Identity is not something you declare. It is something you demonstrate through your actions. If you want to change your life, do not focus only on big goals. Focus on daily standards. Control what you do today, and you begin to control who you become tomorrow. Because in the end, your future is not decided in a single moment. It is shaped quietly and consistently by what you choose to do every single day. Silence protects your growth from unnecessary opinions. Not every thought deserves an audience, and not every plan needs to be shared. When you speak too soon about what you are building, you invite voices that were never meant to guide you. Some will doubt, some will misunderstand, and others will project their own fears onto your vision. Without realizing it, their opinions can begin to shape your decisions, slowly pulling you away from your original path. Growth is a fragile process in its early stages. Just like a seed beneath the soil, it requires protection, patience, and the right environment to develop. If exposed too early, it can be disrupted before it has a chance to take root. In the same way, your ideas, goals, and ambitions need space to grow without constant evaluation from others. Silence creates that space. It allows you to focus, to refine, and to build without interference. When you move quietly, you reduce pressure. There is no need to prove anything, no need to explain every step, and no need to seek approval. This freedom allows you to make mistakes, learn from them, and adjust your approach without the weight of external judgment. You become more connected to your own standards rather than being influenced by the expectations of others. Unnecessary opinions are often loud but rarely valuable. Not everyone has the experience, discipline, or perspective to understand your journey. Yet if you expose your process too early, you give these opinions access to your mindset. Over time, Even a small amount of doubt can weaken your confidence if you are constantly surrounded by it. Silence acts as a filter, keeping your focus intact and your direction clear. There is also strength in being unknown during your development phase. When people don't know your plans, they cannot distract you from them. You are free to work at your own pace, to build consistency, and to stay committed without outside pressure. Your energy remains directed toward execution rather than explanation. Silence is not about isolation. It is about intention. It is about choosing when to speak and when to stay focused. It is understanding that not everything valuable needs to be visible immediately. By the time your work is ready to be seen, it will be strong enough to stand on its own. When growth is protected in silence, it becomes more authentic. It is driven by purpose, not by validation. And when it finally reveals itself, it carries a level of confidence that cannot be shaken by opinions, because it was never built on them in the first place. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Not because intensity has no value, but because it cannot be sustained. Anyone can be highly motivated for a short period. Anyone can push hard for a day, a week, or even a month. But very few can show up every day with the same level of commitment, regardless of how they feel. That is where the real difference is made. Intensity is often driven by emotion. It comes in bursts, when you feel inspired, when you are excited, or when pressure forces you to act. But emotions are unstable. They rise and fall, and when they fade, so does the effort tied to them. Consistency, on the other hand, is not dependent on how you feel. It is built on discipline, on structure, and on a decision to keep going even when motivation is absent. The danger of relying on intensity is that it creates an illusion of progress. You work hard for a short time, you feel productive, and then you slow down or stop completely. This cycle repeats, but it never leads to lasting results. Progress is not measured by how hard you work occasionally, but by how steadily you move forward over time. Consistency may seem less impressive in the moment. It is quiet, repetitive, and often unnoticed. Doing the same work every day, showing up at the same time, following the same routine, it can feel ordinary, but that is exactly where its power lies. Because what is repeated daily compounds. Small actions, done consistently, build momentum, and momentum creates results that intensity alone can never achieve. Think of it this way. A small effort applied every day will always outperform a massive effort applied once in a while. Consistency turns actions into habits and habits into identity. When something becomes part of your daily routine, it no longer requires negotiation. You don't rely on willpower. You rely on structure. Consistency also builds resilience. There will be days when you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated. Intensity would tell you to stop in those moments. But consistency teaches you to continue. It may not always be your best performance, but it is still progress. And over time, those imperfect days matter just as much as the strong ones. What makes consistency so powerful is that it removes the need for perfection. You don't have to be at your best every day. You just have to show up. That simple act of showing up again and again builds a level of discipline that cannot be shaken by temporary emotions or circumstances. In the long run, success does not belong to the most intense. It belongs to the most consistent. Because while intensity fades, consistency remains. And what remains long enough will always produce results. Your habits determine your future, not your intentions. Intentions are easy to create. They require no effort, no sacrifice, no discipline. Anyone can say what they plan to do, who they want to become, or what they hope to achieve. But intentions, no matter how strong they feel in the moment, have no power without action behind them. They are possibilities, not guarantees. Habits, on the other hand, are actions repeated until they become automatic. They operate whether you are thinking about them or not. They shape your daily behavior, and your daily behavior shapes your life. What you consistently do will always outweigh what you occasionally intend. You don't become successful because you plan to. Become successful because your habits align with that outcome. There is often a gap between what people want and what they do. They intend to wake up early, but they hit snooze. They intend to stay focused, but they give in to distractions. They intend to improve, but they delay action. Over time, this gap widens, and reality begins to reflect not their goals, but their routines. The future does not respond to what you wish. It responds to what you practice. Habits remove the need for constant decision-making. When something becomes a habit, it no longer depends on motivation or mood. You act because it is part of who you are, not because you feel like it. This is why habits are so powerful. Create consistency without requiring constant effort to start. They carry you forward even on days when your energy is low and your focus is weak. Intentions can inspire you, but they cannot sustain you. They give direction, but they do not provide structure. Without habits, intentions fade quickly, replaced by comfort and convenience. But when you build the right habits, you create a system that supports your goals automatically. You no longer rely on bursts of motivation. Rely on a framework that keeps you moving. Every habit you build is shaping your identity. If you consistently choose discipline, you become disciplined. If you consistently choose delay, you become someone who avoids action. There is no neutral ground. Your habits are always reinforcing something, either moving you closer to your goals or pulling you away from them. The truth is, your future is already being formed by what you do today. Not by what you plan to do tomorrow, not by what you hope will happen, but by the patterns you repeat right now. If your daily habits remain unchanged, your future will reflect that. But if you take control of your habits, small, consistent actions aligned with your goals, you begin to shape a different outcome. You don't need more intentions. You need better habits. Because in the end, it is not your ideas, your plans, or your desires that define your life. It is what you consistently do. Time is either invested or wasted. There is no middle ground. It may feel like there are neutral moments in your day, small pockets of time that don't really matter, but the truth is every minute is doing something. It is either moving you forward or holding you back. There is no pause button on life. Time does not wait for you to decide its value. It simply continues, and how you use it determines what it becomes. When you invest time, you use it with intention. You direct it toward growth, learning, building, or improving. You understand that what you do now has a return later. Just like money invested wisely grows over time, time invested in the right areas compounds into results. The effort may not show immediately, but it is working beneath the surface, building skills, strengthening discipline, and creating opportunities. When time is wasted, it doesn't just disappear, it takes something from you. It delays your progress, weakens your momentum, and often replaces productive habits with distractions. The danger is that wasted time rarely feels harmful in the moment. It feels comfortable, easy, even deserved. But over time, those moments accumulate and the cost becomes visible in missed opportunities and unrealized potential. Many people believe they can balance between investing and wasting time. But in reality, that balance does not exist. Every action has a direction. Even rest, when done with purpose, is an investment because it restores your energy and prepares you for future effort. But mindless distraction, done without control, becomes waste because it gives nothing in return. The difference lies in awareness and intention. When you are intentional, you decide how your time is used. You assign purpose to your hours. You prioritize what matters, and you eliminate what doesn't. Without intention, time controls you. It gets filled by whatever is easiest, whatever is closest, whatever demands your attention in the moment. Time is the most limited resource you have. You can earn more money, gain more knowledge, rebuild lost opportunities, but you cannot recover lost time. Once it is gone permanently. That is why how you use it matters so much. Every day is a new allocation, and how you spend it determines what you build. What makes this principle powerful is that small investments add up. 1 hour of focused work, 1 hour of learning, 1 hour of discipline, done consistently, can completely change your trajectory. In the same way, small amounts of wasted time, repeated daily, can quietly prevent you from reaching your potential. The choice is always present, even in the smallest moments. You are constantly deciding whether your time will serve you or slip away from you. And over time, those decisions define your results. Time does not lie. It reflects exactly how it was used. If it was invested, it will show in growth, progress, and achievement. If it was wasted, it will show in regret, delay, and missed potential. There is no middle ground. Only the outcome of how you chose to use what you were given. Focus is a discipline, not a talent. It is not something you are born with or without. It is something you train, refine, and strengthen over time. Many people believe that highly focused individuals naturally possess an ability others don't. But the reality is far simpler and more demanding. They have built the habit of directing their attention with intention. Talent suggests something effortless, something that comes naturally without much resistance. But focus rarely feels natural. especially in a world filled with constant distractions. Notifications, noise, opinions, and endless sources of entertainment compete for your attention every moment. If focus were a talent, it would not require such deliberate effort to maintain. The truth is, focus is a choice repeated consistently until it becomes a standard. In the beginning, focus is difficult. Your mind resists it. It looks for easier paths, quicker rewards, and constant stimulation. Sitting down to concentrate on one task without interruption can feel uncomfortable, but that discomfort is part of the process. Discipline is built by doing what is necessary, even when it is not easy. Every time you resist distraction and return to your task, you are strengthening your ability to focus. Focus is also shaped by environment. You cannot expect deep concentration in a space filled with interruptions. Discipline means you take control of what surrounds you. You reduce noise, limit access to distractions, and create conditions that support your attention. This is not about perfection. It is about intention. You design your environment in a way that makes focus easier and distraction harder. Another important aspect of focus is clarity. Without a clear direction, your attention will naturally scatter. When you know exactly what needs to be done, your mind has something to lock onto. Discipline requires that you define your priorities and commit to them fully. Instead of dividing your energy across multiple tasks, you concentrate it on one thing at a time. This is where real progress happens. Focus also demands consistency. It is not enough to concentrate deeply once in a while. Just like any discipline, it improves through repetition. The more you practice sustained attention, the stronger it becomes. Over time, what once felt difficult begins to feel natural. You train your mind to stay with the task instead of drifting away. There will always be moments when your focus breaks. Distractions will appear and your attention will slip. Discipline is not about never losing focus. It is about how quickly you return to it. Each return is a reinforcement. Each decision to continue is a step toward mastery. Focus is a form of control. It is the ability to decide where your energy goes instead of allowing external forces to decide for you. And in a world where attention is constantly being pulled in different directions, that control becomes a powerful advantage. You don't need to be born focused. You need to become focused. And that happens through discipline, through daily choices, repeated effort, and a commitment to direct your attention where it truly matters. Self-control is the highest form of power. Not the power to influence others, not the power to dominate situations, but the power to govern yourself. Because no matter how much control you think you have over the outside world, if you cannot control your own thoughts, emotions, and actions, that power is limited and unstable. Most people associate power with external strength, status, money, authority, recognition, but all of these can be lost, taken, or challenged. Self-control, however, is internal. It cannot be given to you and it cannot be taken away. It is developed through discipline, and once built, it becomes a foundation that supports every area of your life. Self-control begins with awareness. You recognize your impulses, your reactions, and your tendencies. You notice when you are about to act out of anger, distraction, laziness, or fear. And in that moment, instead of reacting automatically, you pause. That pause is where power exists. It is the space between stimulus and response, where you decide who you are going to be. Without self-control, emotions take over. You say things you don't mean. You make decisions you later regret. And you follow habits that lead you away from your goals. But with self-control, you create distance between feeling and action. You are no longer controlled by the moment. You control how you respond to it. This applies to every area of life. It is the ability to stay focused when distractions are calling. It is the ability to keep working when motivation fades. It is the ability to say no when something does not align with your purpose, even if it feels good in the moment. Self-control is choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. What makes self-control powerful is that it builds consistency. When you can regulate your actions regardless of how you feel, you remove unpredictability from your behavior. You become reliable, disciplined, and steady. And over time, this stability produces results that others cannot replicate because they are still dependent on emotions to act. Self-control also strengthens your confidence. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you build trust within yourself. You prove that you are not easily distracted, not easily influenced, and not easily shaken. This internal trust becomes a quiet form of confidence that does not need validation from others. It is important to understand that self-control is not about suppression. It is about direction. You are not ignoring your feelings. You are choosing how to act despite them. You are guiding your energy instead of letting it control you. This is what separates discipline from impulse. In a world full of noise, temptation, and constant stimulation, self-control becomes rare. And because it is rare, it becomes valuable. The person who can remain calm under pressure, focused in chaos, and consistent in uncertainty holds a level of power that goes beyond circumstance. True power is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is not reactive. It is controlled, intentional, and steady. And that power begins within. Growth requires separation from distractions. You cannot evolve in the same environment that constantly pulls your attention away from what matters. Every level of progress demands a level of isolation, not from people entirely, but from anything that competes with your focus. Because distraction is not just a minor inconvenience. It is a direct threat to your development. Most distractions don't look dangerous. They feel harmless, even enjoyable. A few minutes of scrolling, unnecessary conversations, constant notifications, none of them seem significant in the moment, but their power lies in repetition. They fragment your attention, interrupt your flow, and slowly train your mind to avoid deep work. Over time, they don't just take your time, they take your ability to concentrate. Growth, on the other hand, requires depth. It requires sustained focus, intentional effort, and the willingness to stay with something long enough to improve. You cannot achieve that if your attention is constantly shifting. Every time you switch focus, you reset your momentum. You start over again and again, without realizing how much progress you are losing. Separation is not about being antisocial. It is about being selective. It is choosing what deserves your time and what does not. It is understanding that not everything that is available to you is beneficial to you. Discipline means you create boundaries around your time, your energy, and your environment. Sometimes separation will feel uncomfortable. You may have to step away from habits, routines, or even people that do not align with your goals. Not because they are bad, but because they are not helping you grow. Growth often requires you to outgrow what once felt normal. And that process can feel isolating, but it is necessary. When you remove distractions, you create clarity. Your mind becomes sharper, your priorities become clearer, and your actions become more intentional. You begin to see what truly matters because there is less noise competing for your attention. This clarity allows you to direct your energy where it will have the greatest impact. There is also a hidden benefit in separation. It builds mental strength. When you learn to sit without constant stimulation, to work without interruption, and to focus without escape, you train your mind to handle discomfort. You become less dependent on external entertainment and more capable of producing meaningful work. Growth is not accidental. It is the result of focused effort applied over time. And focus cannot exist in an environment filled with distractions. You have to create that environment intentionally. You have to protect it, maintain it, and respect it. What you separate yourself from is just as important as what you commit yourself to. Because every distraction you remove creates space for progress. And every moment of focused effort brings you closer to the person you are trying to become. You don't need attention, you need alignment. Attention is temporary. It rises quickly, fades even faster, and often depends on external validation that you cannot control. It makes you reactive, constantly adjusting your behavior to what others see, think, or expect. Alignment, however, is internal. It is steady. It is grounded in purpose, not perception. When you seek attention, you begin to measure your worth by how visible you are. You start to prioritize being noticed over being effective. But visibility without direction creates noise, not progress. You may be seen by many, but still feel lost within yourself. Attention can give you a moment of recognition, but it cannot give you lasting fulfillment. Dilemma is different. It is the state where your actions match your values, your goals, and your long-term direction. It does not require approval because it is not built for approval. It is built for purpose. When you are aligned, you don't need to constantly prove yourself. You simply move with clarity. Many people spend their energy chasing attention because it feels rewarding in the short term. Likes, comments, recognition, and validation create a sense of progress. But that progress is often shallow. It does not always translate into real growth. Alignment, on the other hand, may not be immediately visible, but it produces deeper, more sustainable results. When you are aligned, your decisions become easier. You are not constantly asking what will get you noticed. You are asking what will move you forward. That shift in thinking changes everything. It reduces confusion, eliminates unnecessary choices, and strengthens focus. You begin to act with intention instead of reaction. Attention pulls you outward. Alignment pulls you inward. One depends on others, the other depends on you. And anything that depends on others is unstable. You cannot control how people respond, what they value, or what they choose to notice. But you can control whether your life is aligned with your purpose. There is also a quiet strength in not needing attention. It frees you from comparison. It removes the pressure to perform for approval. It allows you to build in silence, improve without interruption, and grow without distraction. You stop measuring your progress by visibility and start measuring it by consistency. Datlesment requires discipline. It requires you to stay committed even when no one is watching, even when there is no applause, and even when progress feels slow. But over time, that discipline builds something attention never can: stability, direction, and depth. Attention is something you receive, but alignment is something you build. One is external and unpredictable. The other is internal and